Well, hello all you wonderful people out there in YouTube land, and welcome to the Texas Special YouTube channel. On this second installment of the Model Railroading 101 video series, this is specifically aimed at the O-gauge guys, and we're talking about track, if you couldn't tell. So you've heard me mention in the past O27 and O-gauge and fast track, and if you're new and you don't know, there are a variety of different options for track in O-gauge. And amongst those different varieties, there are different manufacturers with different product lines. We are only going to be looking at, for the purposes of this video, Lionel track, broken down into 3 different categories, further broken down into 2 different subcategories. So you have O27 right here up front. You have O-gauge track back here. Those are your 2 categories. They fall under one subcategory, which is tubular. You have Lionel's fast track, which falls under the second subcategory of roadbed track. This is also tubular rail, but for the purposes of this video, this is roadbed track. As you can see, the tubular track has no roadbed attached to it. So to start off with, we have the O27. Now this, for many years, was standard fare with Lionel train sets, and not just Lionel, but K-line train sets, Marks train sets as well. You have the stamped sheet metal ties with a little fiber insulator on the center rail, which was the hot rail. The outer rails are the ground. This track is physically smaller. Let me adjust my camera. This track is physically smaller than the O-gauge track. The ties alone on the O-gauge track are almost as tall as the O27 track is. So when I say that O-gauge track is physically bigger, I'm not talking about the gauge, which is the distance between the outer rails. I'm talking about the actual physical stature of the track, which you can see there somewhat. O27 track, as its name implies, is available in curvature as tight as O27 curve. Now what that means is, in O-gauge, we model, or we measure our curves as a measure of diameter rather than radius like the 2 rail guys do. So you can get this in curvature as tight as 27 inches diameter, or in 2 rail speakage, 13.5 inches radius. Now there is a whole plethora and a half of O-gauge models that will run on O27 curvature track. Way too damn many to list. O27 track, at least from Lionel, is available in O27 curves, O31, O42, and O54. The next size up is going to be O-gauge. You have a physically bigger tie and physically taller rail. Now the distance between the rails is the same as the 027 track. It is just physically bigger, physically taller. They both utilize a basic 3-pin design. You just slide the male end of the track with these 3 pins into the female end of the adjacent track section, which is just a hollow tube. The upside to tubular track is cost. You can get this stuff at a train show used for as cheap as 50 cents a section, depending on its condition. The downside is flexibility. Since it utilizes that pin design to attach the track together, if you want to do like a reverse loop or like a dog bone style railroad, you're going to have to modify the track, which is not that hard. You just either buy extra pins or move pins around on the track that you have, swapping ends so that you get, so that you can arrange the track the way you want. Additionally, these are easy to repair if you're setting your track up, taking it apart, setting it up, taking it apart, setting it up, taking it apart. Eventually, the connection's going to get loose. That's not a big deal. You take a pair of pliers and you just gently crimp the female end a little bit, closed, and you have fixed the problem. That will, however, depending on how often you do it, create little humps in the track, which can, depending on severity and location, cause derailments or cause cars to uncouple. This tubular track by Lionel is no longer in production. However, you can still get tubular track from Gargraves, and their track options come with more ties than the Lionel tubular track does. It is probably the most realistic looking tubular track option, and you can get it in sectional track, which is preformed straight or curved sections that don't bend, or flex track. They also offer it their track with the option of either plastic ties or real wooden ties. The plastic ties, if I'm not mistaken, are UV resistant plastic. So if you wanted to do a garden railroad with 3-rail O-gauge, then you could use the Gargraves track with the plastic ties. The downside to using tubular track is it's not as prevalent as it once was with regards to the new market. So you're going to have, if you're trying to go the cheaper route, you're going to spend a lot of time cleaning up rail on older Lionel track. You're also, like I said, if you want to do a dog bone or a reversing loop, you're probably going to have to add or take out track pins in the rail. And finally, we have the fast track or roadbed track. Now, there's a variety of different manufacturers for roadbed track in O scale. You have Lionel, obviously, with the fast track option. You have MTH with the real tracks option. You have Atlas O. They have I can't remember what theirs is called, but they have a roadbed option too. Williams or Bachmann, they have their version of this. So there's a lot of different options. There's also an option for sectional track and curved track without roadbed in O scale. That's offered by Atlas Model Railroad Company, or Atlas O. And it's a solid rail like your HO and N-scale track. And the Atlas O sectional track is made using plastic ties with UV resistant plastic. The upside to using, say, Lionel's Fast Track is that it's currently in production, so there's a lot of, you can get whatever you need fairly easily without having to, rebuild switches or spend hours and lots of elbow grease cleaning up rusty rails or replacing, worn or missing insulators on the center rail. That's why I opted for Fast Track on the South Texas Railroad. I do love the look of the tubular rail, but I didn't feel like spending time looking for good quality used switches, so I just opted to just use the Fast Track because it was quicker, easier, and the downside with Fast Track is if it's a setup where you're taking it apart, putting it together, 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 multiple different times throughout the year, eventually the connections, the electrical connection will start to wane. Now, if you're in a scenario like me where you have an actual railroad that's set up, it's not going to get taken down, it's not going to get put back together, then you should be fine. It shouldn't be an issue. But if it's a temporary type setup, I would highly recommend you do the tubular track. If you're doing more of a permanent setup, or it's rarely getting set up and taken down, like just around the Christmas tree once a year, you put it up and put it away, then you should be fine to use the Fast Track, just from my personal experience. But that is the basic breakdown of the various types of track available in O gauge. I hope you found this video entertaining and informative. Texas Special out.